Hey everybody, how you doing today? Just here with my little puggo. Hey puggo, how you doing, buddy? He's been having some weird things going on today, so if I have to pause in the middle of this just to help him out, please forgive me. I want to talk more about the protests and more about what's going on and kind of the culture of America. The protests themselves, and I've taken to calling it a full-scale rebellion. Like, we're not looking at protests to resolve a specific issue or anything like that. We are looking at a larger movement that is overtaking the United States, where the populace is rebelling against the establishment. There is not one single institution remaining in America that actually has credibility. Not one. And the people are letting their voices be heard, and they're getting out to the streets. And there is a segment of the population that is choosing to enact its will through violence. So that's looting and rioting, as it's been called. And lots of commentary has been made on that. What it is it is a cleansing of the society of neoliberal edifices. When a new culture comes through, it often burns and destroys the culture it replaces. That's fairly common. And ultimately, it's the only form of communication that American culture respects. They clearly have no respect for peaceful protest, zero respect for peaceful protest. They clearly have no respect for acts of public solidarity. They clearly have no respect for any. They don't even have respect for their voters, right? They don't have respect for their institutions, their electoral institutions even. What they seem to have respect for, and the only thing they seem to have respect for, are acts of violence. That would be looting and rioting. And it seems to me that what is working in the United States to ameliorate change and to create a better world for people is actually the acts of violence, the property destruction, the looting, which is property redistribution. Those seem to be effective because the society has structured itself and has structured itself to completely disrespect and hold no honor for any other form of change. This is here in Canada, right? Like, the entire reason you have a Liberal Party is so that they will act as a pressure valve to the populace. The rioting and the looting and that form of civil action, it really should, if you have a rational ruling party, it really should never come to that. Because you should always have a pressure valve that releases, that just goes a little bit of that. That does not exist in the United States. There is no pressure valve, and so it seems as though the only form of communication that is being respected at all is acts of violence, property destruction, looting, rioting. It's really easy to change that when people stand up and protest peacefully, take what they say seriously. And if you don't, like when the Occupy movement happened, the Occupy movement was not respected whatsoever. It was a primarily peaceful movement. Sure, there were people who wanted to move in with acts of violence. Sure, the Black Bloc was a big group of that. But the rioting and the looting was not on the same level that we're seeing today. And I think it really is specifically because the Occupy movement was completely disrespected and disregarded in totality, like totally. There is not one single thing that was actually done to ameliorate the suffering that was being pointed out by those who were organizing in Occupy Wall Street. There was absolutely nothing done to help those people. And so now it's very easy for me to believe that if you were a person who was at Occupy Wall Street and you were attempting to live in a peaceful sort of environment, very easy for me to believe that now these protests are happening and you're thinking to yourself, well, the peaceful route didn't work last time. And that's because the American political establishment has absolutely no respect for it. They don't respect peaceful action. They don't respect their citizens. They don't respect electoral politics. They respect none of that. Very clearly, what it seems as though they do respect is violence. It seems to be the only language they're willing to communicate with. And so it seems as though the populace has decided, well, if that's the only way they'll talk, then let's talk. And there's already been pretty big successes. One of the things, and I've been calling this all the way down the line, the corporate structure, neoliberal corporatism will try to turn this into a racial issue exclusively. That's why you're seeing all of these corporations completely bend the knee to the Black Lives Matter movement, right? They're completely fine with endorsing Black Lives Matter. They're completely fine with making large proclamations of support and solidarity for Black Lives Matter. They're completely fine with that. And they will listen to the Black Lives Matter movement, and who knows, like, it could move forward. Like, we could think about, oh, well, maybe let's defund the police. Maybe there needs to be more done in that regard. Anything, neoliberal capitalism will do absolutely anything to turn this into an issue of race exclusively, just so long as those races continue working for them. There is going to be no larger discussion about class if the neoliberal capitalists have their way. They will not talk about the economic structure of the system. They will not talk about the reality of wage slavery. They will not talk about how the system is structured to impoverish the citizens. They will simply turn it into, and will be happy to turn it into, an issue of race exclusively. We're seeing that all over our media. We're seeing it all over the place. No one in corporate media is taking class issues seriously. Someone like Richard Wolff is not getting on CNN, right? Nobody's talking to Marxist economists. Nobody's talking to people who have a larger idea of how class functions in a society that has been torn apart by class relations. And that's sort of my big fear in all of this, is that the protests and the rioters and the looters will be completely quelled through this action. That this will be the way that that corporate America pretends to care about the populace. When, someone like Nike stands up, like the CEOs of Nike stand up and say Black Lives Matter, what they're doing is they're fighting for their survival, right? They're seeing people walk into Targets and burn them to the ground. They're hoping that you're not going to walk into the Nike store and burn them into the ground. They're perfectly happy being like, yes, absolutely, Black Lives Matter. Now please let me keep my sweatshops open, right? They're perfectly happy with oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, like black people, we should do more to help with race relations. Absolutely. Please let me keep my slave shops open, right? Please let me keep making shoes for $1 that I sell to you for $200, you know? the um, the absurdity of the neoliberal capitalist structure can't be spoken about, can't be talked about. But boy, Black Lives Matter. Boy, yeah. And these corporatists are going to do everything they can to deceive and lie and trick you into believing that they actually care about Black lives. Uh, Neoliberal corporatists care about Black lives as much as they care about every other life, which is not at all. These people are sociopaths. They are sadistic murderers. They get off on spreading misery and destruction. They own slave shops. They own sweatshops, right? Like they do not give a shit about human life at all. What they're doing is they're pulling. There's a. I say this all the time. I say this about Bill Gates. I say this about Elon Musk. All these billionaires. There's this great character on Futurama. I highly advise, right? At least go find a couple of clips. Futurama. There's a character named Mom, right? She's the owner of a robot company, big mega billionaire, CEO type. And when she's out in public, she's wearing like really mumsy clothing, like really Victorian looking stuff. Her hair's up in like this old silver beehive kind of look, and she's just the sweetest old lady who's oh dearie, I'm so happy to hear that you love Mum. And then she goes behind the scenes, and her dress is like this automatic robot, like Iron Man suit that just like falls off of her. And she's wearing like this thin cat suit, and she's this wiry, like wretched old woman who's just a shrew, and like physically assaulting people around her, screaming at them, scheming and trying to undercut everybody. This is exactly how I look at corporate America. That they are more than happy to show you a little smiling face. They're more than happy to present you an image of a happy-go-lucky, everything's good, let's kumbaya, Black Lives Matter, let's hold hands and all of that kind of stuff, while they take 8-year-olds and throw them into lithium mines, right? They're perfectly happy with that, because that's how sociopaths operate. They're more than happy to smile to your face and stab you in the back. Neoliberal corporate America right now is just trying to find a way to make it through because they fundamentally understand that the rebellion could come for them, right? They burnt down a Target, right? They could burn down a Nike store. They could burn down this stuff. They walk down Fifth Avenue and just smash the place, right? They could do that to you. So they're doing everything they can to try and pretend as though they're on our side. They're doing everything they can to try and survive into the next era, which they shouldn't. Absolutely, they should not. I am genuinely of the opinion that these traitors to America who have enslaved people overseas in order to plunge Americans into worse and worse conditions, all of that is being done on purpose. All of that is being done, like nobody is accidentally enslaving a population, right? Nobody is accidentally. Go listen to Alan Greenspan talk about this. This is one thing that I think, like, I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not even being cynical, right? I am quoting their objectives back to you. Like, they have stated outright. Alan Greenspan, who used to be the head of the Federal Reserve, sat in the Congress and told the Congress that the goal of American business is to make the lives of the working people worse. That's something a sociopath says. That's like, imagine you as a politician, you heard that, and your response, instead of going, excuse me, you're a traitor, you're definitely under arrest, you're going to structure the society to make the lives of the citizens worse, you're under arrest for treason. I'm totally fine with imprisoning you for the rest of your life, removing your assets, and the assets of everybody who's around you. Absolutely. Instead of that, the political class went, "Well, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, that's a good way to make a whole lot of money, is to make everything worse for everyone." Right? This is their stated agenda. Their stated agenda is to make everything worse for everyone. So they need to be, this whole thing needs to be cleansed. And these corporations that are standing up and are being like, "Oh yeah, Black Lives Matter, yeah, absolutely." These guys are terrified, and they should be terrified, because my view is that they should all go to jail, their assets should be removed, and we should distribute those assets into the populace. And they're just hoping that we don't just go to their stores and do it for them, without worrying about talking to the fraudulent legislative system that doesn't work for anyone structurally, by design, where they talk amongst themselves about how to denigrate the populace. And I got to be real clear at this stage in the game, right? They like that. It gets them off. It makes them happy to trick and deceive you. It makes them happy to make your life harder. It makes them happy to cause problems for you and make the world a worse place for everyone except them and their golf club buddies, right? This is what they want. They want to make life harder for you. And this protest movement is a rebellion. And it should continue into a rebellion. And I have absolutely no pity for corporatists who are crying about looting. Like, yeah, I'm sure the British cried an awful lot when the Tea Party threw all their tea off those boats, right? When the Boston Tea Party happened, right? I'm sure they complained a lot about George Washington. I'm sure they complained an awful lot about the independence movement and the insurrection and the rebellion that occurred in America because of the absolutely fraudulent nature of the British crown. America is an empire, right? They're imperialists. There's nothing credible about them whatsoever. And at this stage in the game, my view is that is that we should do away with corporate ownership completely, that the shares should be transferred over to the workers, that the workers should own the means of production, and I don't think that there is a rational argument to the contrary besides which is the stupidest thing to say at this stage in the game. I think if you are saying that, you are an idiot, and you need to stop talking, stop participating in the conversation. Yeah. Vive la resistance. I hope you guys aren't gullible. I hope you don't get suckered by liars and sociopaths who are definitely trying to make your life worse. They're only interested in their own power. The only reason they're bending the knee to the Black Lives Movement is to secure their own positions of power. They don't care about you, and they definitely don't care about black people. Yeah. Good luck out there, guys. Have some fun if you can, goddammit. Oh yeah, and like, share, subscribe. Do all of those things. Like, share, subscribe. Make me super famous. Make me the voice of the revolution. I don't know. Whatever. Have fun.